Wolak. I'm here each and every day about this time as we begin to explore life. And it's interesting that in meditation lately, more and more and more things have been coming to surface for me. More and more answers to questions I've put out there. And so I thought I would share some of that with you. And it may be a bit controversial today. I may press your buttons today. And you know what? That's okay. Because if I press your buttons, it means you're thinking. And so I've been thinking about this movement toward things like ayahuasca, to mushrooms, shamanic breathing, and all of these other modalities where people have these experiences and all this inner stuff that's within them starts to come up. All this inner stuff within them comes up. And my witnessing this with myself, because I've done ayahuasca, I've done shamanic breathing, and then witnessing others who have gone through this, I ask the question, are we bringing up more than we can handle? And I think that's a really good question. A lot of people's egos will say, no, it's got to come up. We've got to deal with more. Wait a second. No. We don't realize how fragile we are. We don't realize that if we reach in to the garden of our mind and we start to pull a weed out, we don't know how deep that root goes. And so what came to me is that life is a pretty brilliant, magnificent thing. And if you open yourself up to the possibility that I can clear away that which is holding me back, I tend to believe that life will tell you what's next for you to work on. And in doing so, it's telling you, what are you ready to work on? What are you capable of dealing with? But I believe that if you use all these artificial means to bring out all of this buried stuff in the subconscious mind, I believe most people are not capable of dealing with it. And here's what I'm also going to say. Most people who are facilitating ayahuasca journeys, mushroom journeys, the toad stuff journeys, the shamanic breathing journeys, are they really trained to deal with it? I asked that question. My experience is no. Life tells us, life is always working with us for a greater expansion. That's something that I come to understand. Life itself is always for a greater expansion. And you and I, being individualizations of life, we're there to expand. So if life is naturally for a greater expression, wouldn't it seem that life within us would guide us to that next thing? Now, the key thing there is we have to become aware that life is giving us a hint. If we're aware, we don't need to have the kick in the ass. Diala, that's a really good question. Diala says, do we come up with things, or things just come up, or life kicks things out of us? The subconscious mind is fascinating because it's a storehouse of everything we've ever thought, heard, seen, witnessed, read, everything. And it could bring up things that we've stored in the subconscious mind that are not us. But we've been so bombarded with that idea that it becomes us. I remember being in the hospital 2.5 years ago with bacterial pneumonia. I didn't think I needed to be in the hospital. The doctor said I needed to be in the hospital. My oxygen level was about a 92. And so I went in to the hospital, and I needed medical treatment. There was no question. I needed antibiotic. I needed serious antibiotic. I was not able to lick it myself. But when I went in, I was conscious enough to be able to ask, what are you giving me? What are you giving me? What are you giving me? And the only things that I allowed them to give me were antibiotic and probiotic. The other drugs they wanted to give me, they wanted to give me a blood thinner, they wanted to give me this, they wanted to give me that. I told them no. And I remember a respiratory therapist coming in. He came in about 8 hours after I was there. I was there for 2 days. And he brought in this contraption, wanted me to breathe to see how much oxygen I could put into my lungs. And he says, you're not going to do very well. You're not going to be able to breathe in. You've got pneumonia. But when I took my breath in, I didn't believe what he said, and I breathed in the full amount, and he just went, what? You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't have pneumonia. I said, I do have pneumonia. The x-ray shows it's in my lungs. I'm getting the antibiotic. It didn't mean for me that my lung capacity was what you thought it should be. And I bring that up because so many times we conform our minds to what other people tell us we should be. And right now in the spiritual world, there's all this stuff about doing ayahuasca, DMT, mushrooms, breathing exercise. And don't get me wrong, I do breathe. I do Wim Hof breathing every single day without fail, because I understand deep breathing gets rid of inflammation. It's a natural way of dealing with inflammation. And the body is always inflamed with what we eat, the stresses that we've got in our lives. We are always inflamed. And the more we can do naturally to unflame the body, the more the body can do what it wants. Ian says, I think if someone wants to do experiment with psychedelics, they should have at least a decent amount of meditation practice or sitting with their thought practice. Ian, I agree with you. I think if you're going to do psychedelics, you should have a grounding mechanism. And that's what I think about when I think of meditation, grounding. Otherwise, man, you're going to go on a journey, because I went on 5 of those journeys. And I thank God every day that I had the meditation practice that I did before and after and even during. Because it plays out and it's freaky. It's absolutely freaky what comes out of you. And I think it was asked earlier, Diala asked, is it really what's holding you back? Or is it just, maybe you watched a lot of horror movies? Because when I was under ayahuasca, I watched dragons come out of the ground and start eating my legs. Why would that be in there? The only thing that I came up with is that the experience of ayahuasca showed me that everything is an illusion. Everything is an illusion, and that we make it up. Am I saying it's wrong? No. We're here to live in the illusion that we choose to create. But what I'm trying to tell you in what we're talking about today is, I think the journey is a lot easier when we follow the flow of life instead of trying to speed it up. Miralinda just said my grandson committed suicide while under the influence of mushrooms. Miralinda, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. There are a lot of people that also lose their minds under it. It's not totally safe. And you say, well, Lee, why did you do it? It's a really good question. I know my teacher, one of my great teachers, Dr. John D. Martini, says, Lee, you don't need to do it. I did all the LSD in that when I was young. You don't need to do it. Your meditation practice, everything you're doing is right on target. Go with that. Well, I have to prove it for myself. That's what I believe. And why I'm telling you this is maybe you don't have to go down that journey. Maybe you can do the natural thing and allow whatever's naturally next for you to come up. I have found that as my life has progressed, if I allow my natural process to happen, my natural curiosity, my natural way of finding healing modalities, things work out so much better for me. So much better for me. Petra says, I don't trust people. Well, here's what I don't know if I trust people. I don't know what people's motives are. I don't know what their perceptions are. I don't know that anyone thinks the way I think. And you know what? One of the things that I teach is always that you can only trust someone to live up to what they value the most, not what they tell you, what they value the most. Renee, let me tell you, what the frig is a spiritual journey? Let me ask this question. Isn't this the spiritual journey? But we've forgotten that, and so we're looking for something more than life. There's nothing greater than the experience of life. We've become numb to be able to sense life, to feel life, to be in life, to see the magnificence that our bodies are. Trillions upon trillions of cells interacting, constantly recreating this and allowing us to experience each other. In meditation, I talked about this today. I'll just take a moment on it. We have been conditioned over the last year and a half to not connect with other people. It's like we've been thrown into solitary confinement, and now is the time to come back and be with each other. We are not meant to be alone. Don't let the brainwashing continue. Follow your heart. I could go on and on and on, but I'm going to leave you. I've given you so much today to think about. So if you're thinking about this and questions comes up, join me tomorrow, 8 o'clock, and we'll continue this conversation because this is what we do every day. We continue to go on the journey. And if we do it with like-minded people who support us, not tell us what to do, it makes the journey so much better. So I want you to know, whatever you're going through, I love and I accept you just the way you are. Do that with everyone you meet today, and you'll create a magnificent day. Until tomorrow, aloha.